Happy day 5, everyone. We are here celebrating our 12 days of Christmas with TS Wed. We are doing just a teensy mini series to help provide a little bit of education for some of our newly engaged couples. We know the wedding planning process can feel a little bit daunting, even though it's super exciting and joy-filled. And so the hope here is that we are able to just relieve some of that stress and some of that pressure and provide you with a little bit more information about hosting a destination wedding, what that can look like, and how we can maybe help you as you begin this exciting process. So we are on day 5. And what we are discussing today is a very commonly asked question that we receive from inquiring clients. And this is regarding wedding vendors. Wedding vendors, for those of you who don't know the verbiage as well, are people that wedding planners hire to help bring your event to life. So these are people like your photographer, your floral designer, your DJ, your rental company, all those good guys. These are the industry partners with whom we connect to bring your vision to life. One of the most common questions that we receive, especially in the inquiry process, is if we, TS Wed, have a preferred vendors list, and if we're willing to work with vendors that are not on that list. This is a great question. And what I will say is that the answer to this question has absolutely transformed in the last 6 to 8 years for us. The answer is no, we do not have a set preferred vendors list anymore. This was super common definitely 10 years ago, but especially when you had planners that were doing maybe a little bit more of a cookie cutter wedding, something where you picked a package and then you got to pick your photographer based off of these 3 options and your floral designer based off of these 3 options, and those vendors would then fulfill the obligations of that package. That is something that we don't do with TS Wed. With TS Wed, every single experience for your wedding week is completely curated and personalized to who you are as a couple. And so what that means is that 3 or 4 photographers may not be the best choice for your style, for your aesthetic, for your budget, for all of those things. And so while we do have vendors with whom we partner regularly, who we trust, who we recommend, we don't obligate you to a specific list. That being said, we don't just work with anybody. So that's really important to note here. We are very selective about the vendors with whom we partner on our wedding experiences. You will see this actually, it is outlined in our contract with each and every client that we ever service. TS Wed basically has the right to turn down a vendor even if you are like completely married to the idea of utilizing that vendor. But there's a reason for this. The reason for this is that we so dearly value the overall experience of both your planning process and your wedding week itself, that if we see red flags that are indicative of challenging behaviors or behaviors that might increase your stress, we will veto that vendor. So for instance, whenever we have a client come to us with a new vendor, let's say it is a photographer, and they say, oh my goodness, I absolutely love this person's images. They are amazing. We want this photographer for our wedding. Fantastic. The first thing that we do is stalk them. So we're gonna like them on Instagram. We're gonna take a look at their website. We're gonna take a look at former planners with whom they have worked. We're then gonna reach out. We're gonna reach out to those planners and say, hi, we're interested in learning about your experience with this photographer. Can you please share that with us? We're gonna look at their reviews, and on multiple platforms. We're gonna look at their Google reviews. We're gonna look at their reviews on The Knot and Wedding Wire. We're going to try to gather as much information separate from that vendor, but about that vendor. Once we have that, we'll then schedule a consultation with the vendor. When we chat with the vendor, we're looking at things like, how long does it take for that vendor to respond to us? Is the response professional and kind and accommodating? Does the vendor seem capable at his or her trade? We're just gonna go through all of these things once we schedule that consultation with them. We're gonna ask them, how do you approach your wedding day? What is the most important part of working with a team of vendors on the wedding day? We're gonna ask them about insurance. Do they have insurance? That's really important. You don't want to work with vendors that aren't insured. I will say 9 times out of 10 that we do this, we actually end up loving the vendors that our clients have brought to us, and we use them and work with them for years on end, and it is a sensational experience. However, there are a couple of times where we will go, oh my goodness, there's a huge red flag. It took them 3 weeks to respond back to me, despite the fact that I followed up 6 times. They don't carry insurance, or 2 planners that they worked with said they would never work with them again. If and when we receive this kind of feedback or see these kinds of red flags, we will decline working with that vendor. But instead what we'll do is we'll go, okay, so-and-so loved this photographer's images. So let's go into our tried and true partner list, or let's look at some other options and go, who has a very similar aesthetic with whom we're more willing to partner, who's more professional, or who has the appropriate insurance, or who gets sensational feedback. And so we'll then present that to our couples and say, hi, unfortunately, this person isn't the right fit for a TS Wed wedding, but here are 2 other options that have a very similar aesthetic that are the right fit. So that's super important. We also will choose brand new vendors that we haven't worked with based on your location selection. So for example, if you choose to host your wedding in Scotland at a beautiful castle, fantastic. I can't wait. My husband is a bourbon man, so Scotch is right there. What that means though is that you've chosen a location that I've never serviced before. And so there are some vendors that we would bring along with us, specifically vendors that are client facing, that we need to be able to have the best possible communication with. So photographers, DJs, things of that nature, will probably recommend a US-based crew for those services. However, there are other services like catering, bar service, rentals, that we absolutely will want to utilize from in-country. And so what we do from there is we will reach out to the planners and the venues in that country and gather recommendations. We'll then do the same thing that we do if and when a client brings a vendor to us. We will check references, we will check reviews, we will have consultation calls with these vendors. And if and when we go, great, we have found one, we have found a sensational caterer that we feel really comfortable and confident with, we'll then present it to our clients. So that is the way that we approach the wedding vendors with TS Wed. We are so lucky because this is an industry that is completely flush with sensational, professional, high quality vendors that provide exquisite service, that are all really partnered in community to bring the best possible experience to our clients, to your family and friends, to ensure that you have the best possible wedding week that you could ever dream of.